Hey everyone, hi. Hello, hi everyone.
Morning.
Well, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Isn't it wonderful that we can all meet together at all these different times, in all these different wonderful moments where we're all together collectively and separately? How lovely. Just going to wait just a few moments just to see who else is coming today, and then we will move into some action. Okay, so I'm just going to mute everybody, and then I think we'll start. People will come in as they come in, and that's beautiful. So a very, very wonderful and warm welcome to each and every one of you to the second in our series of Echoes of the Spirit. And today we're going to do a lecture on creating communication and deepening the evidence. This will be followed by a short time of questions and answers. And then, depending how the time is unfolding today, we will then also have a time for maybe a 20 minutes sitting in the power, very much there towards the end. So first and foremost, a wonderful, warm welcome to each and every one of you. As always, hang on, I have to tidy up. As always, it is a joy to host these evenings, these wonderful talks. And really, what I want you to do before we even really begin to discuss is to take a moment and to acknowledge within yourself the power of the medium. For it is an ancient practice within a modern world, and it is the power of you and I. And one of the greatest battles that we have in understanding communication and moving through the evidence of the spirit is really embracing the fact that you are the medium, that we are the medium. For it is the sacred power of the soul that you are created with. It is not something that you seek to be. It is something that you already are. And what we are doing through this incredible journey called life is unfolding the journey where we are allowing the inspiration of the soul to come into being. And that, I believe, is guided in part by the higher purpose of the soul, which is transformation. And of course, the realization of our own spiritual journey and our connection to the power of all life. For this transformation is not about becoming the medium. It is about embracing and becoming yourself and recognizing that we are part of this great, stupendous whole, this creative collective energy, which is the power of all life. And that regardless of color, creed, or belief, whichever pathway brings us into this understanding, that we are all created of the one source. And as such, we are part of this great journey that is never ending. And the spirit world proved that to us time and time again. So the power of the medium is ancient. And what I want you to reflect on, first of all, before I move into real lecture, is how you perceive that to be within yourself. How do you do what you do? How do you create that within yourself? For it is the guiding light of everything. For it is an internal process that creates an external experience that is interconnected through the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system of the medium. So we know that anything that we create is an altered state of consciousness. We know that we live in the beta states of mind, which is the physical life. So in the physical mind, all of the subtle realms of the psyche and the spirit are muted because everything is here, everything is being guided, everything is being, if you wish, controlled by our thoughts and our action. We also know that as we begin to move into a state of concentration, meditation, sitting in the power, we then begin to perceive that which is hidden or muted, because we're moving into an altered state of consciousness. We know also that when we move into the fullness of our concentration, focus, and power, that we move into what we call the superconscious mind, which is the doorway between the alpha theta bridge. If we look at the mind, we have the beta, the alpha, the theta, and the delta states of consciousness. When we move into the superconscious mind, the past, the present, and the future exist as one. So it's the universal mind, or the collective mind itself. So everything does involve an altered state of consciousness. But what I want to just speak to you about first, before we move into the technicalities of communication, is that the power begins with you and I, and that how we do that, how we create that, also leads us into the success that we are seeking, you see. So before you even start, you should build your own spiritual mediumistic power. You should make that connection between the heart, the soul, and the divine force of all life. For that is the anchor within everything, the creative force. However you choose to perceive it, it is the energy of everything. And you cannot be where that power is not. And no one is lost unto its identity, even if they have no belief within it. For all are loved, you see. And so before you even begin to start to build communication, we have to learn how to communicate with ourselves. We have to learn how to embrace the naturalness of our own energetic system. For it is through the energetic system that everything comes into being. So again, I go back to that first point. How do you create that within yourself? What inspires you? What moves you? What creates that moment where we then begin to perceive things upon another level of existence, you see? Because it is from that point that everything is created, you see. And the first point is you've got to believe it. If you don't believe it, then how can you create it? And so this positivity, this recognition of self is so important to that which you are creating. I am the medium, you see. The creative ego is the wish to do well. It is that power that urges us forward. It is only when it becomes the monster that we have a problem. But in itself, you have to have that curiosity. You have to have that wish to know, to seek, to embrace, and above all, to understand. And what is extraordinary, you see, is that no two people will do it in the same way. Isn't that wonderful? In your uniqueness is your beauty, just the way you are. So how you create it, how you move, how you dance within the joy of your own spirit is dependent upon your own uniqueness. So the starting point is getting to know you. The starting point is to begin to recognize the many phases of your energetic system: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and to take time to start to move the consciousness onto a higher level of experience. And here it's important to say that everything is interconnected, everything is part of the greater collective. So whichever level of mediumship or sensitivity you are working on, everything is the same. Everything is connected through the power of the mind and through the cooperation of the mind. And what I want to put before you as a thought is that the power of the soul is the power to know. It is your life experiences and even beyond that point, you see. And so everything that we are is involved within this process. We would have to look at first focus and concentration, for this brings us into a greater sense of awareness, you see. And as we talk about that, perhaps we should also talk about how we bring that into being. And the answer simply is the power of love, the power of joy. For when love and joy are created, we begin to move into a higher state of concentration, and communion is started to be created. And here perhaps we should also look at how you perceive your connection to the creative force or the God force, however you choose to perceive it. For it is the guiding force of the universe, and at the center of creation, of course, you'll find the spirit world. So when we look at the creative force, whose greatest virtue is love, combined with compassion and understanding, the power that knows all, loves all, can mark the fall of a single bird and the growth of a blade of grass, we then begin to realize that actually it is the guiding force of you and I. It's the power of the universe. And it is within every cell of your being. And so when we start to move into the presence of our own power, that is the guiding anchor of everything. So we seek and we find and we create before we even begin, you see. And the soul is really the guiding force of the physical world, for it is the vehicle of expression and experience while we reside within this world, but it is also the eternal vehicle. So the soul is connected for this time to the earth, which is our place of belonging, but your heart is intrinsically connected to the divine. So you can live for every second within that bliss of the creative love, you see. But your anchor is always and must be within the physical world. For we are not designed to be in that hypersensitive state for long periods of time. And if you're not careful, of course, it can lead to emotional instability and imbalance. And then you have problems. In our previous lecture, we spoke about the power of the empath and how important it is to work on those boundaries and the balance of everything. So the starting point is how you perceive that relationship that you create with the power itself. And it is a relationship. It is a communion of souls, see, through the great mind of the spirit. And that, I believe, is created through devotional love, pure and simple, you see. And that really is the starting of transformation. It is the transformation of self and the journey of life. Because once you begin to accept the fact that we are eternal beings, once we begin to embrace the reality that we are all created of the one source, it has to change how you think, feel, and act within this world. Because it then brings us into a realization that we are actually part of the universal power of all life, and that the power of change can start with you and I. And through our thoughts, our actions, our love, we can create peace, you see. So you become the co-creator of the universe, really. And if you begin to imagine what could be created if everyone felt and thought in that way, you'd have a spiritual revolution that would completely sweep the earth, you see. And so our own spiritual evolution and state of awareness is based upon our own thoughts, our own ideas. And you and I have awoken to this reality of life unto life. Therefore, everything that we are and experience is the result of that which we have learned and unfolded. And I believe that you bring a lot of that with you when you come into this life and world. Because I'll guarantee you, as you begin to unfold your beautiful mediumship, you begin to realize that you know it anyway, that it's actually something within you that resonates within you. And that is because I believe the facet of the soul that is connected to the powers of the medium has this knowledge and understanding of the spirit. And that is why you will always have to watch your physical, emotional balance. Because there is a reality of the soul that knows that this is our place of belonging for this time, but also recognizes that we are part of a greater story, you see. And I'll guarantee you, any issues that you've ever had in your life have always been on the emotional, physical line. Always. And that there have been times when you've questioned the reality of this world and your place within it. And even I would go further and say there's been the odd moment where you'd wish why you'd bothered in the first place. And I believe that's because there is an inner awareness of the other world, of the spirit, because it still resides within us. For within the power of the medium, you walk between two worlds. You are the mediator. You are the medium. You create that wonderful bridge between our world and the spirit. Therefore, you live in two worlds, you see. So that's why part of this process has to be the balancing of our own physical, emotional understanding and needs. And sometimes that's also about creating boundaries within ourselves, but also within the journey of others, so that we remain strong, focused, and concentrated, but we can also be within the creative love. I hope that makes sense. And because it is such an individual journey, you see, you have to work on that balance yourself. You have to learn to know what's good for you, you see. And to understand that sensitivity is something that through the practices that we unfold will only continue to grow all the more. So therefore, you have to begin to work on that balance. When we are strong, the world is strong. When we recognize within ourselves the need to nurture and to heal, we heal and nurture. You see, and that's not wrong. It's absolutely right, you see. For you could not create what you create without that heightened level of natural sensitivity, you see. So the physical mind, this is the part that can hold us back. Because there are times when we question who we are, when we question what we do, whether we are worthy, whether we should, whether we can, etc., etc. And the only answer to that is, of course you should, and of course you are, and yes you are. Pure and simple, really. But you have to understand that when you move into a heightened state of sensitivity, what rises from the subconscious can also be relating to issues of the past, you see. So part of this journey, as I had previously said to you, is also about working on self and healing self and working on the foundation of that, you see, for it will then strengthen everything else that you do. And as we move into that time, you see, we then begin to realize that everything that we do, everything that we create, is a part of that process. In the ancient world, you see, you wouldn't live as others live. You would be by the sacred spring. You would live by the quiet. You would learn how to commune with the power itself. See, in the temples of Egypt, they used to sit within the silence for years before they would learn to communicate with the power. In the dream temples, they would sleep within the sacred precincts of the temple. And then in the sleep state, the cures would come and they would know how to cure and how to treat themselves. So they have this ability to commune with the power, which is really what we should learn more, in my opinion. So creating communication, you see, communication takes place on many different levels. We speak of the psychic, the intuitive, the knowing, the gut instinct. They're all part of that natural process. And what is interesting is the clair-knowing is one of the strongest gifts of this age. And it is the one that you trust the least, you see, because it comes from everywhere and nowhere all at once. And so this is why one of the first and foremost aspects we must concentrate on is learning how to understand and experience your own energetic system. Now, this is perhaps where we start with meditation. You see, not everybody is a natural born meditator, you see. I certainly never was in my younger years. I value it now and treasure it and crave it quite often. But in my early years, I do everything to get out of it, to be honest, because my mind was never still. It was always active, yesterday, today, tomorrow. And so one of the things that we learn is that what it teaches us is to be the observer, because it is a non-active mental state where we are observing an unfolding process. But it teaches us to focus and concentrate and to hold our point of focus, which is vital for any level of mediumship, of course. And then when we are within the meditative state, it is already an altered state of consciousness. And it begins to stimulate what we call the etheric senses or our mediumistic senses. So we begin to feel, see, hear, taste, smell, etc. All of the senses come alive within meditation. They become heightened. So it's a form of stimulating those pathways. In the old ways, I suppose we used to call it the psychic sensory pathways, the pathways of communication. And so a meditation can be structural, such as a walk down a country lane. It can be a single focus, it can be a word, it can be a symbol, etc. But when you have that stimulus, such as a walk down a country lane, it is what we see, it is what we hear, it is what we feel, it is what we know, it is what we embrace within that moment. So meditation has real value for your mediumistic development and also for the therapeutic value, I would have to say. When I do my healing and people come to see me, I always talk them into a meditative state first before I start the healing. Because when somebody's mind is so focused upon their condition and what they're going through, the healing will not take the same effect. So it's a form of moving someone's mind into a state of peace, harmony, and becoming receptive within that way. But unless you are a natural born meditator, I would not recommend long periods of sitting. I would say 20 minutes, 15 to 20, and gradually work on building it and creating it over a period of time. I mean, people who are profound meditators, they move into what we call the delta states, which is really the deep trance states, where the breath is almost imperceptible. And it is also the deep hypnotic trance state where they undertake operations. See? So when we look at those altered states of consciousness, the beta, the alpha, the theta, and the delta, each one involves a greater cooperation of the physical mind and a withdrawing of the physical senses. And that's why, you know, when you are sitting and you're within that moment, there is often a time distortion. You lose yourself within the experience, you see. And it's the same with the trance states, which we'll be covering at a later time, that actually it is a gradual moving away from the physical state of mind, and we start to become aware. And I always look at it that way in mediumship. We have the physical mind, the physical state. I bring the physical mind into a state of quietness, and then I begin to listen to the whispers of heaven. You begin to move, you see, from one level of consciousness to another. So the second exercise, of course, would be the sitting in the power. And this really is a technique that was given to us by the spirit world. And what we have to remember is that the primary aspect of the soul is its spiritualization and its relationship with the creative force. So you should always sit within the power first to become one within and to become imbued by the power and become one with the creative force. And then mediumship is a byproduct of that. So just actually learning how to sit for 5, 10, 15 minutes, just within the power of all life. And as you do that, you are uplifted, you are reminded on a soul level that we are part of that divine force and that we are part of the creative journey of life. And we are nurtured by it, we are healed by it, you see. And so that is really, for me, the most important part of sitting in the power. It is taking that time to become one within the power of all life. And then I move from there through there to the spirit world. And then I sit with the spirit and just allow that communion to take place. But the starting of communication on any level, because the power is the same. It is the reflection of it, the intention of it, that takes you into the experience of it. It's all the same power, you see. So the clairsentience, which is the feeling, is the primary power, because it is the power itself that will tell you something is there or that something changes. So you should always be linked to your clairsentience, you see, for it is an internal process that creates an external experience. The spirit world cannot physically enter the body of the medium. It's impossible. But we are connected energetically to the auric field by our central nervous system and autonomic nervous system, you see. And within the subtle bodies of the etheric system is what we call the etheric double. So if you can imagine me energetic, and within my auric field there is an exact replica, and it is through that system that everything is created. And we are connected to it through our own thoughts and feelings, you see. So that starting point is always the clairsentience. It's always the feeling, you see. And as you build your energy, there must always be a joy within it. You see, some people have a problem with the word love. So I always use the word joy. But if love resonates with you, then use it. Find that which resonates within you, for it will help you to build, to create, and indeed to embrace that which you are seeking, you see. And so we go back just one fraction to the building of your own energetic power first. Your power of the spirit, or your spiritual power, if you will, your spirit power. And before you sit, you should always prepare yourself. You should always place into your thoughts the higher purpose of that which you create. From the highest that is within me to the highest of the universe, I dedicate myself to the service of the Spirit. The way of the Spirit is my way. The light of the Spirit is my light. I manifest my power right here, right now. So you're bringing it into being through your own thoughts, if you will, through your own joy, see. And that's when you need to look at how you empower yourself. How do you feel about the universe? You see, I've always believed in the natural power of the earth, the sea, the sky. The earth, our place of belonging, which is the magnetic energy of the red, which is the power, which is the passion. So you have the red, the orange, and the yellow, which are all the magnetic energies of the earth. So from below to the solar plexus, the heart, which is the green, diagonal, horizontal, the blue, the indigo, the violet, and the star. They are all the higher powers of the spirit, so they are from above. So you can create your energy breathing through the earth from above, diagonally through the heart, and also visualizing through the power of the breath. For the power of the breath is the creative power of all life, you see. So as you breathe in, you are breathing in the breath of life. So you are bringing into being your power, your energy, your light, you see, and it begins to grow. It begins to form that foundation of everything that we create. And so I always personally move from the heart. That is my center of power. For many, it's the hara, the seat of the soul. It can be the anamkara, the spiritual heart. However you perceive it, there is a point. Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, Yanda. Into the temple of my inner being come thou, O Lord of joy. On the altar of my inner vihara, I place flowers of desirelessness, for their beauty is thine, O Lord. So it is an invocation of the heart, of the soul. And however you perceive it to be, you create it, you begin to embrace it. And so it is always through that that you begin to create the presence of the power, I believe. And this is perhaps where we would then bring in the word ritual. So many people, before they sit, light candles, play music, light incense. And one of the things we always used to do at the college was whenever I took meditation for the classes, I would say to everyone, when you walk through that door, you are silent. When you stand at the door, you leave behind everything that is of the physical world symbolically, and you move into a time of reflection and a time of the spirit. So important to remember that the atmosphere and the energy that is created has that joy and that sacredness within it, you see. And what will happen is that you build a power where you sit. You know, go into any sacred place in this world, as long as there are not too many people there. And then all of a sudden you'll feel the presence of the power. In England, there is an amazing place called the Shrine of Our Lady of Walsingham. Very, very old shrine. And when you go into the shrine, no one speaks ever. And so the prayerfulness is absolute of the silence. And honestly, it is like the roaring of the biggest, it's incredible. The silence is loud when you go and you sit, you see. And so how you create that, of course, is unique to you. But over a period of time, as you build that connection with the beloved spirit, they will be there before you are. And that's why when we have the meditations and the sitting in the power, no one speaks, you see. And those of you that are in circles or developing circles, you should not speak at the beginning, because that is the most sacred part. That is being prepared by the spirit. And if you start talking before you start, it's gone. You've got to start from scratch again. So honor the power, honor the silence, and then you'll find that it will build with a spiritual purpose that will then create everything that you are seeking to embrace. And really, that is the power of love. And here I want to move into the energy of compassion, you see, because compassion will take you beyond your own physical self, the helping of others. And therefore, when you do your readings or your demonstrations, when you move into the feeling and the energy of compassion, it's no longer about you. It's about that which we create. And it takes you beyond mind, beyond self, to the freedom of your power, you see. And I've always used that in everything that I've done. So when I meet someone, your need is stronger than how I feel, either about myself or my ability. Do you see how that works? It's very good, because it takes you beyond that physical examination, if you will. So the clairsentience is the feeling, you see. And this expansion is an inner process that creates an outward experience. So if you will, that joy, that energy, that love, that light, because I always believe in light, really, always have, and it expands, you see, into the auric field, creating this state of sensitivity. And so there is a wonderful analogy, the fish and the water, that we are all the fish swimming in the sea, but when you move into the fullness of your power, you become the water, and you are no longer aware of being the fish. Do you see how that works? And of course, water connects the emotions to the consciousness, to the superconscious, to the spirit. So that's why you will always love to be by the sacred spring or the water. You may not want to be in it, but you love being beside it, because it's a natural mediumistic trait, you see. So always radiate that feeling of welcome, that energy of love through the divine source of you and I. Must always have that element with you, because that is where compassion is created, you see. And everything that you need will follow from that, you see. And so the first level of that would, of course, be the intuitive psychic realm. And I always use both. Always, whatever I'm doing, I will always look at the intuitive, the psychic first, because it tells me about you, your life, your journey, and through that I become aware of the spirit, you see. And so the foundation of your power is that intuitive psychic energy, you see. You cannot be where it's not. It's a part of everything. And it is intrinsically connected to the soul, you see. And the soul is the ancient power of knowing. So your power has this ability to know something about something. And that's when you have to trust what you're doing, you see. Because as we begin to speak, we begin to experience. And as you begin to experience, you begin to create a flow. What stops the flow is stress. Can I? Should I? Do I want to? The physical mind, which will always hold you back, especially those of us that want to be the boss. And of course, your focus. So those 3 points prevent sometimes a natural flow of experience, you see. And through the heart, through your spirit, you naturally connect to the person you're talking to. So if it's a private reading, then I would connect from the heart to the sitter. And so I always say heart to heart, soul to soul, but bearing in mind that I've built that essence and presence within myself first. So the very second that you meet someone, it begins, you see. And this is where the power of the voice is wonderful. Because through the power of the voice, you create healing and you bring someone into the harmony of your power. You see, it's very good the way that it works. Because imagine if you're speaking to someone who has never had a reading before. You see, so you have to talk someone through the process. So your introduction is really important. How are you today? Have you ever been for a reading before? No? Oh, isn't that wonderful? Now just sit down. Let me tell you what's going to happen. And immediately someone begins to relax. And as they relax, they create a harmony. They begin to cooperate, you see. And I always use the psychic to begin with, always have, always will. When I start to talk to you about your life, you start to become interested. When you start to become interested, you start to say yes. When you start to say yes, you begin to cooperate. Do you see? You create a harmony with your sitter, you see. And what is so interesting is that often what rises through the soul of the medium has direct relation to what is happening within the life of the sitter. And usually it's something that we know and recognize mediumistically. See? So you can create like a harmony, and then all of a sudden within your thoughts and your awareness, what comes is what is happening within the life of the sitter, but it also resonates in a way with your own life because you recognize it through thoughts and feelings and emotion and experience, you see. So when we start to build that, we then start to move into a time of understanding, and what is relevant to the life of the sitter should come first, you see. And this is where I want to just separate a couple of things here. Mediumship is often taught through the power of the mind. You have to do this, 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 and this. You have to find this, 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 and this. I totally disagree. What I believe is that you create an energy that is receptive to the inspiration and the need of your sitter and the wishes of the spirit. And then the story that is created is based firmly upon the wishes of the spirit and not the thoughts of my mind. You see, because where we sometimes go wrong a little bit, in my opinion, is that we're taught to find this, and this, when in fact the spirit may not want to talk about any of that at all, you see. And if you're not careful, you become the narrative. You're building a story based upon what you think it should be, rather than the emotion and the inspiration of what it needs to be, you see. Information and evidence is also based upon the relationship that the spirit has with the recipient. Absolutely, you see. And if you go looking in your mind for all these specifics of information, and it's not what is known between the spirit and the relationship they have with the recipient, then all of a sudden you're creating a story that the recipient doesn't know. And you can tell that often when a medium is working and they give all this information and they say, well, I'm sorry, I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that. And so, yes, you could say that information should also be something that you have to find, but not to that degree. You see, imagine if you've had a relationship with someone and the totality of that relationship was due to you working together. So all of that information is about the time that you spent working together, not about your families, not about how many children you had, nothing. And then all of a sudden you start finding that information with your mind. And then the person says, well, I don't understand. I'm really sorry, I didn't know. Because we only knew each other through work. So allow the power to guide you, you see, for it will lead you to where you need to be. Pure mediumship is an intelligence, it's an inspiration, you see. And so therefore, when you move into that moment of being receptive, what is needed should already be there. So in allowing it to unfold through inspiration, you will more likely create something that is life-changing, you see. And yes, there needs to be the balance between evidence which substantiates the continuation of life, but that evidence is based upon the experience of the spirit in relation to their relationship with the sitter. You see, I do believe that. So the intuition, the intuitive, the psychic is instantaneous, really. So those impressions come almost immediately. So it's important as you begin to blend to become that you start speaking and not thinking, you see, because then it will become more of an inspiration and more of a flow. If you start trying to understand what you're saying, then all of a sudden it will place pressure upon yourself and it will interrupt the flow, you see. And therefore, try and stay within the presence of the power and let it guide you, you see. Those first impressions are often the most lasting impressions, and they take us into a greater understanding of the need, of the energy, you see. And this is perhaps where we should just bring in gently the exploring and the deepening of that information. Everything that you receive and perceive is the starting point. It is not the totality, you see. And everything that you become aware of has meaning. Otherwise, you wouldn't be aware of it. So it's important to remember that as you receive, you feel, you stay connected to your clairsentience, for then it begins to unfold the story and the understanding of what it is. And this is where the clear knowing can quite often come in very strongly, because you can see an image and all of a sudden you know what it means. So this is where trust comes into being, you see. And also to recognize that as soon as you step into the power of your work as a medium, it is no longer about you. Your energetic system, how you feel, your experiences totally relate to that which you are unfolding and is nothing to do with you. And when people say, well, I'm not sure if it's me or not, well, then you're wasting your time, aren't you? It's about the experience. Embrace the experience, you see. So the starting point, of course, is something that has meaning and value, always. And so explore and empower it, you see. And then psychic information is about the energy of life. It's the here and it's the now. It cannot talk to you, whereas the spirit can. And I always say the psychic is facts and figures, and it very rarely tells you something that you don't already know, you see. But it does have the ability to bring knowledge and observation to life and to the energy of life, whereas the spirit can bring knowledge that can support life and enable it to move forward, because it's another dimension. It's a living dimension, you see, that can bring knowledge, that can move us forward. And here I just want to drop in gently the power of the universe, because sometimes the universe steps in and brings knowledge that brings illumination to a situation and the way forward. The power of prophecy, that's the power itself. And so sometimes spontaneously information comes within a reading that brings insight into a situation and a way forward. You see, prophecy is not subject to time. It can relate to now, but it can also very much relate to the future. And it is a spontaneous aspect of the power. That which is sought by the power of the mind will only reveal itself as it is overshadowed by the mind itself. So when you seek it, it is often not really it. It is spontaneous, you see. And so sometimes is the knowing, because it can touch one of your senses and actually embrace all of your senses at once. And there is such a clear knowing within it. And what you need to do is to start trusting yourselves totally, you see. And the way to do that is that when you have an impression about something, don't just leave it, follow it. Someone comes into your mind, phone them up. You've been on my mind. What's happening? What's occurring? You see, you have a feeling about something. Follow that feeling, unfold it. And what you're doing is you're encouraging, you see, the natural power of knowing. I hope that makes sense. And it makes you more sensitive to the knowing. Listen to those subtle impressions, because they will guide you right. You know, often we in mediumship, you'll go, is your father in the spirit realm? Well, the fact that you're asking says that you've got a feeling that you know they are. Hedge your bets, you know, be precise. You see, do not be general in your statements. Be specific. Instead of a generalization, make a strong statement. I'm aware of a gentleman. I know he's your father. Your father is here. So you bring everything into a statement. I see, I feel, I hear, I know. Then I'm informing you how I'm working, but each statement brings me more empowered by those senses, you see. So the psychic is a wonderful tool. And somebody who can do it really well is worth their weight in gold, pure and simple. Don't care what anybody says, because it can be very useful for life and the energy of life. And so it is through the psychic. So I'm talking to you about your life, your light, your journey, what I'm seeing and feeling with you. At the same time, I'm listening to the whispers of heaven. It is through the clairsentience that you become aware that the spirit is there. Something tells you that the spirit is there. And when you become aware of the spirit, the totality of your feeling should be totally with that point of presence. And then you'll find that you gently move away from the psychic, it blends with the spirit, and then you start on that level of the spirit world. And the first impression of the spirit is so important for communication. I always go essence, presence, personality, mind. You see. And often when we first meet someone, if you think about this in life, the first thing we experience is everything that comes at once in that first moment. You see, it's the same with the spirit world. And what does happen is that we start talking before we've fully blended with the presence. And so you should always take a few moments of becoming one. And so it is through the clairsentience and the knowing that usually stimulates the seeing. It is through the feeling and the seeing that we often stimulate the hearing. So even if you are seeing something as your first point of origin, you should feel it because it takes you into understanding it. You see, I can see you all. I can see your wonderful faces, well, half of you, but I do not know you. But as soon as I begin to feel and sense, I begin to understand you. Can you see how that works? And that's exactly how that comes into being at that time, you see. And here we have to remember that we are working with a living essence of life that is thoughts, feelings, emotions, and has lived, you see. And so what's important is that you are a representation of that life in the physical world. You become the voice of the voiceless. You become the presence of those who no longer have a physical presence within this world. And so usually that first touch is an emotional one, you see, and it's often through emotion that we begin to understand. So when I first become aware of the spirit, I will already have my heart, my mind, everything will be open to receive through that love, you see. Imagine if you meet someone in the physical world and nobody smiles at anybody, nothing happens. But as soon as you smile, you begin to feel an energy. You begin to feel that you're starting to come together. It's like a welcome, really. Smile to heaven, and heaven will smile back. That emotion, which often rises at that point, can be extremely evidential. I'm sorry. I was angry. I never said goodbye. I love you. And often within that moment, there is the full understanding of the message before you've even begun, you see. Because remember that the spirit world come because they have a need of communication in some way, whether it is communication of their life, their journey, or support in relation to the relationship that they have with the person you're talking to. And so that first coming together is so important, you see. And again, of course, you've got the clairsentience, the feeling of it. And then really that brings us more into the presence. And the presence is about becoming one with the experience. And it is through that welcome that we start to experience more fully the presence of the spirit. And that usually I do through personality. When you start your communication, try not to get involved too much in descriptive evidence to begin with, because descriptive evidence will take you away from the mind and bring you more into the reality of describing. What you want is the mind of the spirit, the one-to-one connection, so that the mind can speak and influence you and inspire you. And the way to do that is through the personality, what type of person they are. That will begin to embrace energy, emotion, and characteristics. And that's what makes you and me, and the difference between you and me. And then personality, of course, you begin to step into the shoes of the spirit. And as you step into their shoes, you actually then begin to see the world through their eyes. Your personality will tell me everything I ever need to know about you, how you think, how you feel, how you present yourself to the world, how you feel about your life, your family, your job, etc. It's all there in your personality. So the personality will then take you to the mind, and the mind will talk to you. Clairaudience. Estelle Roberts and Helen Hughes once demonstrated in Sheffield to 8,000 people. Can you imagine demonstrating to 8,000 people? And in that one single demonstration, Helen Hughes gave 48 first names, second names, addresses, the lot. Estelle Roberts was very well known for doing that as well, and her precise mediumship. She often demonstrated between 3,500 and 5,000 at the Royal Albert Hall, you see. So what rises within the soul at that moment of communication with the spirit world often comes through the soul of the medium, and that is a resonance between yourself and the spirit. In exactly the same way that, in my opinion, the psychic works, you see, because everything is interconnected. And it's here that perhaps the superconscious mind is more evident. Because when you move into your superconscious mind, the two sides of the brain, analysis and imagination, become one. And then that becomes power of the spirit, creative visualization, clairvoyance, you see. And that's why if you lose your point of focus, there is a separation in the brain and you go back into analysis and then you've lost it. And perhaps here it would be a good thing to say that everybody, don't matter who you are, will unfold mediumship, and there'll be moments when you drop the power. And the secret of that is not to panic, recognize it and work with it till you're back again, you see. And equally, when you're doing a private reading, it's possible for you to become too immersed in the power of the sitter that you lose the energy of the spirit. So always remember that that first touch of the spirit is your anchor, you see. And as you move into the presence of the spirit, you know, they may bring an emotion, which is a sadness. And that can be evident of their life, you see, it can be evidence in a way. But then when you focus upon the sadness, all of a sudden it moves into an explanation and a knowing. And then you've got a mother who comes who was really sad. I'm sorry I could not show my emotion to you. I lost your father 20 years before I died, and I just lost all interest in the world. And then all of a sudden, there's this great healing between the spirit and the physical world, because the child always assumed they didn't love her and couldn't communicate. So there is always a healing presence between the spirit and the physical world. Mediumship itself, at its core essence, is love and healing. You see, it's our job as a medium to present it. It's not our job for you to accept it. Because sometimes in life, some people aren't ready for that forgiveness. And so we present it, but then we honour the wishes of those we speak to, you see. And it is a sacred task. So information leads into information. Inspiration takes us to the point of need within the spirit. And the message is always within the evidence. If you come to the end, then you've missed it. There is always within the evidence that which echoes within the recipient, and that's where the message is, you see. So deepening communication is actually the understanding that everything you receive is the starting point of a greater story, and that our role and sensitivity as a medium is to embrace it, to understand it, and to convey it, you see. And this is where there is a psychic element within mediumship, absolutely. So you can see a house through the spirit, but here you go through the door and it tells you what's inside. Traveling clairvoyance is a psychic phenomena. And so when you go and you find something and you see something, it's a psychic element. It's not always the spirit that show you. So it's a combination, you see. And to be honest, when you look at the need of the power, perhaps it's better also to understand that what comes through that inspiration is what is needed. It may not be what the person wants, but it's what they need, you see. And that's why we can always say that our work as a medium is inspirational, and let's see how it unfolds. You don't want to start on a negative by saying, well, I don't know if this will work or not, because then you've lost everybody before you've even begun. You do it in such a way that honours the inspiration. And this is where mediumship can become life-changing, truly. For it is the power to lift the saddest heart into the realization that nothing is lost, that all remains constant, that I am I and you are you, and I remember. And while I continue to remember, there will always be love. Whether you passed 5 minutes, 5 years, or 50 years ago, I will always remember you through that absolute love that we had and still have. And that's really when it becomes life-changing, when through your words and blending with the other world, that the person you're speaking to, you see the light come back, because they know that those that they have loved are still there. I still remember to this day doing a service, and a little girl came up to me and she said, do you know, my mother died 20 years ago and I've never heard from her since. Does that mean she doesn't love me? And that's always stayed with me. And then as we were talking and as we moved, then there was the mother. You see, nothing is lost, nothing is wasted. Everything remains true unto itself to the end of time. And it's limitless in what it does. Everything that you create is a miracle, because it is. It is this extraordinary ability to bring together the heaven and the earth to create that oneness of communication. But always remember that you are the magic that creates the miracle. It is that within you. It is that extraordinary part of who you are and the love that you bring unto this world that is the greatest power. That is the transformation of who you are. For there is a guiding light that is guiding you and I beyond and above this world and will carry us forward. For you have been before and you will be again, but not in this way. I do not believe so. So mediumship itself is a sacred act. It is through the divine presence. But it is a facet of the soul. And it is not uniquely designed or blessed through that divine power. Because you have many people who work within mediumship that do not have it, do not seek it, and only seek monetary gain through the power of the ego. And you will find that in all walks of life, unfortunately, you see. But to earn the love and the respect of the power is to understand your own journey. And sometimes that's also about healing. It's about self-healing, recognition of your own journey, forgiveness, acceptance, and the embracing of love itself, you see. And that is what makes a medium, in my opinion. It is being who you are, being genuine to it, striving with an open heart, and allowing that love to radiate throughout this world. That is what is needed. For you are the ministers unto heaven. You are the ministers of the spirit world. You minister to the people through the love of God and the creative force of the spirit. And that sometimes is a heavy burden, but it is also the greatest, for it imbues us with this power, this recognition. And what I want you perhaps to think about is that it's also about us as an individual, because you cannot have one without touching the other. Have courage and be kind. Be kind to you. Have courage to know that the power that is within you is beyond everything of this world, and that there is value and meaning within it and within you as an individual. You carry the seeds of the universe within you, and that is extraordinary. And within that is this most tremendous love. And wherever we are, whatever we do, we bring that into being through who we are. It has no label. It is who we are. And that is the greatest thing, you see. And then all of a sudden, nothing else matters but just doing your best. And if your best is good enough for God, then it's good enough for anyone of this world. Okay? So I haven't drawn breath for an hour and a quarter. So do you have any questions in relation to anything that I have said in regards to the lecture? Does it make sense? Can you resonate with it, perhaps, a little? And is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? No, it's your way. You see, follow that which is natural within you. And what I always believe is I listen to everybody and I do what I want anyway. I follow what is right for me. You see, in my life, I've had the privilege of studying with the greatest mediums of this age. I listened to all of them, and they all had different viewpoints, different ways. But one thing that was unique in each of them was the love of who they were and what they did. And that's what you must carry within you. Because whether you realize it or not, you are the hope of this world. You are the energy and the thoughts of today, and you are the pioneers of tomorrow. For without you, there is no voice. And that is something extraordinary to embrace, you see. Just the way you are. So let the power nurture you, let it support you, let it love you, let it heal you. And all of a sudden, you just feel it, you know it. Let it talk to you. you see. And our relationship with the spirit world is a relationship. It is a communion of souls, you see. And what is so wonderful is that we are all so different in life. So you never quite know what will come, what will be. But the basis and the foundation of it will be through that love. And usually there is one single communicator that is the foundation of everything you create. And from that, everything else grows. So it may be the father, then all of a sudden you're aware of the mother, the grandmother, the auntie, etc. But there will always be one communicator that brings evidence, knowledge, and relationship more than all the rest. And that's the one that will really bring the information that you are seeking to support life eternal within that. Listen to the whispers of heaven, for it will bring. Oh, there's a question. Wasn't that marvelous? Oh no, I've lost you. Hang on. Do you bring in spirit when sitting in the power and when meditating? Not so much when meditating, but when I'm sitting in the power, I bring it first into a reflection of my own connection to the divine source. And often I may just sit within that. And then after about 5 or 10 minutes, I may then move to the spirit world. But yes, I do, you see. And as a medium and as somebody who is seeking to build and create a better connection with the spirit, remember that there are many in the spirit world that are there to work with you, to support you, to strengthen you. And what I do every day, because I do work a great deal, is I sit in the quiet, I move into the presence of my energy, I send my joy, my love for my day, and I visualize what I'm going to be doing with the spirit world. But if I'm teaching, I teach through the inspiration of the spirit. If I'm demonstrating, I'll put that into my thoughts, my energy. And so it's a real relationship. But when you are creating that in the beginning, or even as you are continually developing it, because it will never change, it never stops, is that when you are sitting within the presence of the spirit world, there is an energetic change of energy between the physical world of matter and the spirit world. And your energy is refined, it is quickened, it is changed. Your own etheric energy and the vibration of it changes. You see, just as everything you need for this journey while you reside within the universe is already within you, and that you come into times of personal light and knowledge. And this is why you should be always open and receptive to the energy of the spirit, because it will change as you change, as you grow. So too will your connection with the spirit world. As you start to really manifest the power of the spirit, you actually begin to experience less, but you know more. And you think, well, where did all that go? But then all of a sudden your knowledge becomes greater. So you may see less, but know more. And just as we have those who work with us in the spirit world, there is always a coming and a going. You know, somebody may be with you for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. But then they may actually then just say, right, well, I've been with you for this time. Now it is time for someone else to come and be with you and work with you. So in your times of just sitting with the spirit, you're encouraging your own development and the opportunity of the spirit world to work with you and develop a lot of the deeper facets of mediumship. Because communication is just the starting point. You have the many powers of prophecy, seership, second sight, somnambulistic clairvoyance, the ability to dream and foretell within the sleep state. So always try and keep an understanding or a record of your experiences, because it will help you to understand it. Everything is ever changing, ever evolving, ever renewing itself. And what is important is that we dedicate ourselves to that evolution. You see, even with, I don't know, Lord, how many years I've been at it, over 30. I was teaching at the college for 30 years. I am still seeking for more. I'm still seeking a greater connection. I'm still seeking a greater understanding. And so that energy must always stay with you. Always keep moving forward. Always keep seeking. And you will reach it because it's within your destiny to do so. But you never know how close you may be to that one moment when everything comes together for you. So don't give up. It's not an option. You know, have faith, have courage. Know that there is something that is guiding you, guiding all of us, and above all is wishing you well. Half the people in this world may think that you're mad, but we do not care, do we? Because we are in excellent company. Yes, we are. And always hold to that because it's most important in the way that it comes. Are there any other questions? So we shouldn't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. You're the miracle. You already are it. My goodness. You create it through the thoughts of the heart and the energy, you see. But it really is true. You never know when we're working, when we're seeking, how close we may be to that one moment when the great symphony of the Spirit sings through you. And that's why you must never give up, is to hold true to it in the absolute knowledge that you work for a higher power, and that is the power of all life. And if you remain within its constant presence, you cannot help but succeed, because everything will unfold through it, truly. And the word of that, which we sometimes have to remember, is called patience. Nobody likes it, but it is the one thing that sometimes we have to wait and continue to work and move forward within time. Okay? Any other thoughts or any other questions in relation to that? Okay, so what I'm going to do is just, I know some of you need to leave, but I'm just going to do a very small sitting in the power with you. And just to bring us all together within that feeling and sensing of the Spirit. So let us just come together. And as we come together, let us just honor the presence of you and I, and that which is created through the energy of life and is here and now. And for just a few moments, focus upon the breath, the sacred breath. For within the breath is the power of creation, the energy of life. And within the breath, visualize and breathe in. And as you breathe out, just relax. We've been focusing and concentrating for a long period of time. So let us just refresh ourselves through the breath and the qualities of the breath, which are new beginnings, new opportunities, new life. So as you're breathing in the power. And as we are exhaling, there is this gentle letting go, this relaxed release on the out breath. That's beautiful. Now stay with it. And as we focus upon the breath, begin to create a stillness within yourself. And as we embrace the stillness, let it deepen. And allow the stillness to touch your heart and to be within the presence of light that is within your heart. And as you embrace the presence of light, I want you just to focus for a few moments that you are a spiritual being with limitless potential. And that you give yourself permission to experience. And that all is indeed well. And as we focus upon the heart, be aware of the presence of your own spirit, which is your inner power. As you focus upon the inner power, I want you just for a few moments to just embrace the realization that there is nothing that separates us from the spirit world. And that truly we are one. For we carry the light of the Spirit within us, and it is who we are. And that as we embrace the realization of the spirit world, the creative power of the Spirit is also part of who we are. And that all is well. And that there is indeed nothing that separates us. And through the power of the breath, the creative force of the Spirit begins to flow within the breath and radiate throughout the whole of our being, touching our hearts, uplifting our minds with this tremendous love. We embrace the essence and presence of the creative force in whom we move and have our very being. Through the power of the heart, through the light of the soul, we are one. One light, one strength. And through this light we begin to radiate this feeling of love, this energy of joy. And that as we begin to radiate and reach out, we are reaching to the guiding force of the Spirit. Those that watch over us, our teachers, our guides, the angels of light and healing, be with us in all that we are seeking. It is also seeking us. Surrounded by light, uplifted by love. There we are. Just be aware of the presence with you, opening our hearts and minds. And through the breath, just breathe in the presence of the Spirit. And that within every breath, you are becoming more and more a part of the spirit world. Lead me and guide me. Surround me with love, that I may be as thou wouldst be, and do as thou wouldst do. Eternal light and creator of all life, in whom I move and have my very being, be with us, now and forevermore. As we breathe in, just allow the presence to build, the atmosphere of joy, the presence of eternity. And as we blend within the gentle presence of the Spirit, just affirm within your heart, I am the medium. I carry within me the sacred eternal power of the Spirit, and all is well. As we embrace the presence of the Spirit within the true essence of our light, we are reminded that we are loved, surrounded by infinite compassion within the presence of all life. Gently as one, we move into the energy of gratitude, of honoring this time, of embracing the presence of eternity, and all is well. Very gently and softly, we send our thoughts to the Spirit, embracing the power of creation. Gently begin to move into the presence of this world, this life. Feel your feet upon the ground, your connection to the earth, and softly, slowly and gently, coming back to the here and the now. Everyone okay? I've never lost one yet. Just gently and slowly, not too quickly, becoming aware of the breath, aware of the here and the now. That was beautiful, really. I could feel the presence of the Spirit. Everyone back. Donna, very gently and softly. Just move the fingers, focus upon the breath for me. That's it, I can see you. Good. Mary, you okay? Yeah, lovely. Okay, very nice. Well, we've spoken of many things today, and we've spoken about the foundation of everything, which really is the doorway to the experience. And in our next talk, we are looking at the power of healing, but it's healing within mediumship, the different levels of healing, trance healing, spiritual healing, healing within the message. So it's not just totally about healing in that one aspect of healing, it's many different things. So thank you for coming today. It's lovely to see so many of you that I know. You're like my family, God love you. And lovely to see some that I haven't seen before. And from my heart to your heart, I could not wish you greater success upon your journey. Remember, there is no right way, there is no wrong way, it is your way. The connection of the heart is connected to the eternal power of all life. And your mediumship is who you are. It is not that which you are trying to create or to be. It is an internal experience that creates an external. So know that it's who you are. Every time you sit, every time you work, every time you practice, you remember my words and just affirm that into you. That not only are you part of the creative force, but you carry it within you. The seeds of mediumship is who you are. Allow it to blossom, because the world needs you, my dear ones. All right. Thank you for today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. All right. If you haven't registered for the next one and you would still like to, even though it's sold out, just write to me and I will send you the link personally. All right. So it will be my joy to see you again. All right. Take care now. See you soon. Bye for now. Bye. Take care.